WarsawJS.
How many of you heard about hybrid applications? Please raise a hand. What? That little? Okay. How many of you worked with hybrid applications? I guess not that many. Okay. And how many of you are using hybrid apps each day? This is a tricky question. I guess everyone can raise a hand. So if we look on the US apps market, we can see that 74% of hybrid applications in general are hybrid. And additionally, if we look on the developers, we can see that so we have 30 times more web developers than native developers. So if we look on the big tech companies, we can see that most of them have some hybrid app available in App Store. So that brings me to the topic of my presentation, which is hybrid revolution. So the revolution that is happening in our industry, the revolution that brings the best from web and native, the revolution that happened here in BC. My name is Aleksander Lubych, and I'm front-end developer in BC. I work with micro front-end platforms for a couple of years now. Recently, I became a dad, and I'm pretty hyped about that. I love to play guitar with my band, and I'm doing some game development. Yeah, I'm totally noobish, but yeah, trying my first steps. Today, I'll talk about how we in BEC navigated through the hybrid revolution, what was the implementation journey for us, and what is the outcome of this implementation. What is hybrid app? So to understand what hybrid app is, let's look firstly on the native application. So native application is an app which runs on the native code. In case of Android, it is Java or Kotlin. And in case of iOS, it's Objective-C or Swift. Thank you. So if we look on the web app, we have HTML, CSS, JavaScript, as you all know, right? Usually it runs in browser. So if we combine those two words, we have hybrid application. So it's a web code that runs in the native container. But you as the front-end developers, sorry for front-end, but generally as a developers, you are probably thinking, why? Why you should bother with hybrid application, right? And this is a valid question, especially from developer perspective. So to answer that, let's look on the hybrid applications from the business perspective. And if you do so, you can see that hybrid apps can bring you a lot of good stuff. For example, you can have efficiency in development. You can develop code once and deploy that to all platforms. Additionally, having code built once, you can have the UI consistency between different platforms. And if you have this code once, you can deploy fast to all platforms. And for us, there was additional thing, which was very important, and it was being open for co-creation, so for third parties. So having that in mind, we started our journey with hybrid application. And just before we started the implementation, we asked a couple of questions, which basically we were able to put in the decision tree. So we start with the first question, which is, what are our users? So basically, do we have primary mobile users, or do we have mixed users? And for us, answer was mixed. So that basically tells us that we should go a bit in the other direction. But the next question was, do we need to support the existing web code? So basically the code that we have written in JavaScript. And for us, the answer was yes. The last question was, do we need to support the native features? And again, the answer was yes. So we end up with the hybrid framework that we need to implement. And just to highlight, I want to show you what were the technical drivers for us. And the technical drivers was existing web that is running in the native application and native features support that we need to have in those applications. And the native feature support we wanted to have to bring the native feeling to the web applications that are run in native app. So we started our journey, and the first step was going from monolith to micro frontend setup. So we have NX and Angular, classical application, Angular, and we divided our application to several micro frontends, native shell and web shell, and we added the module federation to that to be able to run these micro frontends. So because of that, we could run our native shell in native application and web shell in browser, running the same micro frontends. The next step was looking on our features and finding the features that we want to elevate to bring this, native feeling to the users. So, for example, here we have alert service, which we basically rewrite from web-specific implementation to abstract layer. So having that, we could have two different implementations, one for web and second for native. And that's awesome, because having that, we could introduce the secret sauce. So the glue that is connecting everything together in the native application. And for us, that was Ionic. So we have 3 steps that we did. Do you think that was enough?
No.
Any other answers?
Yes.
That's good. The answer is partially. So if it comes to the new micro frontends, we were able to run them in both native and web, giving the user, this native feeling. But if it comes to the existing code, we had a tiny problem with it. And this problem we call circular dependencies. So in our project, we had a lot of things that were connected together and should not be connected. So we started to looking on that, and we created additional layers and moved different pieces around to be able to decouple things. And if you are interested in that, please check out this talk by my colleague who is sitting here, Jacob. Awesome talk, how we went through this very complicated process of decoupling things. So great. It seems like we have everything covered. So we have pretty simple setup, Angular, right? Everyone knows Angular. It's just another front-end framework. We have Ionic, okay, some other framework to talk with native application. Module federation, NX monorepo, micro frontends. It's not that simple anymore. So some of our consultants were not sure that it will work, and others just have no idea what's going on. By the way, this is Chichu, our office pet. Yeah. So we have pretty complicated setup, but the question is, did we deliver our business goal? Let's look. So do we have efficiency in development? Yes, we can build once point X because we still need some native development, for this awesome feeling for developers, for users. And we can deploy that to all platforms. Do we have cross-platform consistency? Yes, we have unified design system together with the same code that is run everywhere. So we have it, basically. So do we have fast updates? Not really. This is the one thing that was missing, because having this complex system brought us a bit more complicated release process. And things need to be, let's say, done a bit slower if it comes to release. But we are open for third-party integration. So we get almost everything, and we're still in progress on these fast updates. So I want to look now on the outcome of this implementation. What does it mean for our organization? And I'm talking about this specific implementation. So if you look on this decision tree that I presented a couple of minutes ago, you can see that if you go with one direction, you are willing to sacrifice some things. So basically, if you are not going with PWA, you are willing to sacrifice the cheapest implementation that it is, the limited skills that you need to have because you have only front-end developers, and the simplest deployment that you can have. If it comes to fully native implementation, the most important thing is highest performance that you can have, the platform support that you have right away, because with hybrid framework, you might have some delays with new features. Okay, those are the trade-offs. But I also want to point out, let's call them development lifecycle headaches. And those are basically the challenges that we currently have. And the first one is testing. So the testing became much more complicated for us. Because we need to test both platforms, our testers are more involved than ever, basically. So we have also more problems with debugging if it comes to developers, because if the bug is only on native platform, then we need additional effort to debug that. And if it comes to developers, they need to understand how the platform works. They don't need to know the implementation of the platform, but they need to know that there are some features that are supported only in native to bring this, native feeling. So this is additional layer of knowledge for them. And there's one last thing, which is called cars of knowledge. So cars of knowledge is a situation when you have people which build the platform, and they understand that well, and they know that well. So for them, it's obvious how it works. So they, for example, talking to some other developer and trying to explain something, and they are very, let's say, not angry, but they're like, okay, why didn't you get it? It's so simple. We have very simple setup, right? So those are the lifecycle development lifecycle headaches that we have. But from all of that I said, I just want one thing for you to remember. Less is more. Build once, use everywhere. And if you start working with the hybrid app, and probably you will, just find the right spot for it. Thank you. So before the questions, I have one question that I want to ask. Is it okay?
Yes, of course.
Great. So
you're going to ask this question to everyone or to all of us?
No, for everyone. So the question is, it's more about the implementation, more technical, but why we had to introduce two shells, one for native and one for web? Do you have any ideas?
Looking for best answer. Best answer. Well, hold on. We need to hear this online and around the world.
I thought about like screen size and differences between using a mouse and a touch screen.
So again, screen size?
But screen.
Screen, yeah, screen size. And what?
Input differences, like on mobile you have touch screen, but but if you're browsing from the web, like from your PC, use keyboard and mouse. So that also might be a difference.
That's one
okay.
Possible answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Next possible answer. Let's go here.
I think your main problem was the difference in environment. So, for example, you have window for the web environment, and like for example, in React Native, you want to use a sync storage or some other things which are not available in the web environment, obviously. So to share, to split the functionality which is available for specific platform, you need to have, like you call, 2 different shells.
Implementations.
One more time. One more.
Yeah,
one
we
more
have-
option. Here we go.
Yeah, almost the same. Like you need to implement those abstractions that you show us for different platforms, for web and for mobile, for example, like usage of, I don't know, geo services or something. So you need to implement this. You can implement this inside the shell.
Okay. Do we have any other answers? It's not someone from BEC, right?
One more. Okay, you would be on the other end of the football field. Here we go. Any good ones sounding good so far? I don't know.
Hi, thank you for the talk. I think you wanted to feel native.
Yes, but
just-
what are the technical reasons?
Say it again?
Technical reasons for that.
Oh, I got it. Maybe some platform-dependent libraries were used.
Okay.
Okay,
So-
is that enough? Possible answers, yes. Please tell us what the best answer was.
Yeah, so the best answer is with the implementation. So you want to narrow the amount of JS files, right? You want to have different implementations, the first one, and narrow the amount of JS files that you bundle to the application. This is the first answer. But the next answer that I am surprised that no one answered that is that if you have the shell, like if you have the native application, the shell, it's basically does not need the UI at all, because the UI is given from the native application. And in web, you need to have the UI because you need to have the header, you need to have sidebox and everything. This is the part of that shell is responsible for. But in native, you are loading only microfrontends, which does not need the upper bar or whatever. So it is empty. And the most important thing is, of course, the different implementations. So you want to have specific implementation, specific library for this native implementation, and of course, narrow the bundle size. So thank you very much for answers.
Oh, well, to be fair, from the
Yeah,
beginning...
one second.
Sure. To be fair, from the beginning, your question was, how many of us
I'm
are
sorry,
using
I'm sorry,
hybrid
but-
applications? And, and prizes.
Yes, we have prizes. So
Who gave this one first answer?
yes,
I agree.
yes. But we had also.
And one more sitting right there in
Okay,
the back.
we'll find something for you. So.
Thank you very much. That was interesting. It's always nerve-wracking when the speaker asks a question and asks for the best answer. To be fair, from the beginning, the question was, how many of you are using hybrid applications on a regular basis? And there were very few hands that went up. So I'm not surprised that the answer to your question was difficult for our audience today. Does anyone have any other questions for Aleksander?
So I have quite the similar experience, the same NX for like managing applications, the React application for the web, and like React Native. So, and for sharing code base, we used a framework which called Native Base, which basically is responsible for splitting, providing the same components for the web and mobile. And I would say in the end, like the design for the mobile application, which is application, was so much different from the mobile view of the web application that I would say for the most of people, makes sense mostly to
Split it.
to split the logic. So my question probably was how good you was able to share the view between different platforms.
Sure,
And
sure.
how much it was different.
So, because we build this bridge, which exposes the same, let's say, global functionalities that we wanted to elevate to, this native level, so give the user native feeling, we basically can run the whole micro frontend, so the same feature in native application. So, actually, we are trying to aim to the point where micro frontends are agnostic and they don't know in which platform they run. If they need to, have some unique native feeling feature, for example, we have swipe to refresh, which is very native specific. So it's only on native. Then it is also available in the bridge, but microfrontends needs to basically create the logic specifically for that feature. So from our point of view, it is entire domain like microfrontend that is running in the native. So and actually it works pretty well. It looks pretty well.
I'd like to ask you a question. How much native code do you need to write in this implementation in your Ionic implementation? Thanks.
This is a good question. I'm not a native developer, so I did not implement those things. But we have both for developers for Android and for iOS. So there is some layer of implementation on the sides of native part. But comparing to to the feature that needs to be written from the beginning, like from scratch, it's not much, basically. Yeah. Okay, so we have another question.
I'm sorry, I already have the microphone. I'm here.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the latest evolution, I would say, of the web platform, would you say that there is a possibility that you would be able to replace your hybrid apps with fully web apps like PVAs and other things? I'll give you a good example. Previously, real-time video processing was not possible with JavaScript alone, but now we have stuff like Web Codecs API, which exposes basically native hardware accelerated video processing. Do you think that will be feasible in the future to replace it, based on how cheap it is to hire JavaScript developers?
Actually, this is a great question. This is a great question. The problem with hybrid application is that I think that we need to remember the limitations. For example, you still have some, like I said, performance issues. So if, for example, for gaming, you will not be building, hybrid application, right? So if we are on the same level with some new features, if it comes to performance, then there is no need to go native, right? We can build that from hybrid, basically, in web technology. So yeah, I think we have, we might come to the let's say, point where we have the same performance, and there is no need to go, fully native.
Okay, we'll have 2 more questions, and then we're going to be taking a break. Here's your next question, sir, Aleksander.
Thank you. So, after a presentation, I got that your idea was to support some native applications. And I saw different considerations on how to do it, different decision trees, and a lot of time spent on application decomposition. And my question, why haven't you considered some approaches to entirely rewrite your application, for instance, using Flutter, which already supports web, macOS, Linux, Windows, iOS, and Android, and solve all your questions?
Yeah, sure. This is a good question, but not entirely, because I pointed out that our main, we had 2 technical drivers, and one of them is to be able to run existing code, so the existing feature. Basically, we had huge existing code in Angular that we wanted to run in native application, and there was no possibility to just rewrite it because we did not have the resources for that. We had resources to build some, platform that we can then, extend to next level. For example, for third parties, which we are focusing right now. But we could not go fully Flutter because we had still support Angular with, the existing web code.
So hi here. My question is about one of the features that makes the native platform feeling native. Actually, where we were working with this hybrid application is the main problem with how the web history and navigation and transitions work. So my question is how you deal with that. You are saying that your app has those native feeling.
Yes. For example, if it comes to native feeling, like I mentioned before, we have something like swipe to refresh. So those are the features that are only available in the in the native application. So we don't have animations during the root change, for example. Those are the Angular animations. So they are very, let's say, they are aligned with the animations that are in the native application, but it's not the same. But we, for example, introduced some loaders, for example, native loaders. So you can control the loader from inside the web code to like notify the native part that, okay, show the loader, and when we finish, please hide it. So like for user, they see only the web code, like the feature, the web code, and then you know, if they are controlling the view is controlling the loader, that brings this, you know, this native feeling. So for user, it's very hard to, you know, to see that it's not native. And we are trying to find, you know, those features that can bring this native feeling as much as possible, right?
So the future is hybrid. Is that what we're saying?
Definitely.
Folks, give another big hand to Aleksander Lubych from BEC Poland.